Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and I'm joined with Frank Godon, who is running with the Manitoba Party here in the Arthur-Virden riding. We're in Virden, and we have been traveling across Manitoba to talk to all the people that we deem to be real fighters for individual liberty and individualism, period, that are running in this Manitoba Provincial Election. Obviously, it's a very important election. People are saying we got to get Selinger out, but of course a lot of people are pushing the conservative PC agenda, which to most people that are really true conservatives don't really believe in the form of conservatism, the social conservatism that we see coming from the PCs. And the Manitoba Party, several of those running with the Manitoba Party are providing a different idea that is more towards the individual, more against collectivism, more for the message of liberty and real conservatism, something we don't see that often anymore, actually. So Frank, thanks for talking with us. Now, can you tell our viewers a bit about your past experiences and what brought you to run for the Manitoba Party in this election?
Okay, yes, I've ran in a federal election for the Libertarian Party. It was in a by-election, and then I put my name forward for the federal election last year, but I didn't. I wasn't able to run. I've always been politically interested in politics, but more so in the freedom that each individual has, and I see more and more. It doesn't matter what establishment party gets in. They're always taking away some of our freedoms, a little bit by little bit. They hide them, under different guises of helping the people. But all in all, they're still taking away our freedom.
Yeah, and as a Métis man, what's your argument for small government to the more the big government, Métis people and First Nations people? Because of course there is a divide between the original ideology of, say, sovereignty versus what we see today from a lot of the First Nations communities, unfortunately. So, what do you say to the more Métis First Nations communities when it comes to big government versus small government?
Well, the first thing I emphasize is decentralization of the government and its services. A lot of First Nations issues are around that. The government controls everything that should be given to them. A good example is Child and Family Services. Our party believes that First Nations should be the ones in control of Child and Family Services, in control of their own children. Other issues is the mineral rights. Out here, the First Nations have no control over their mineral rights. And a lot of people, they think of oil, natural gas and stuff when it comes to mineral rights. But there's more to it. I mean, gravel. They come out here and they strip the gravel from us, take it in, into the city or wherever, and we receive nothing, next to nothing, for those mineral rights. And there are some First Nations that their lands are on some of these minerals and stuff, and they receive nothing, for it. And so, by decentralizing, by bringing it out to the community and allowing the community to make the decisions. Yeah, it's resonating with especially with the First Nation people that I've been working with and talking to.
And you brought up a really important point that we at WAM have been fighting against for several years. We know that CFS has become a huge issue. 90% of children in care are First Nations. There's profit to be made off of the system. We have to remember that only 11.1% of the entire population of Manitoba is First Nations, yet 90% of the children in care are First Nations. And that is obviously a huge issue. That's not just a coincidence. There's a reason for that. Now, what would you do if elected at the legislative building? What would you do in order to call the powers of CFS and this kind of profit-making system that's bordered around the whole CFS system?
I would be calling out CFS in the ledge, and bringing to light the problems with giving so much money per child. I mean, when you look at it, one of the First Nations people I was talking with, they said, well, Child and Family Services receives $68,000 per child. So their budget depends on having a lot of children in care. So what they're doing is they're stealing children for money, basically, and coming up with all sorts of excuses for taking these children from these homes. And then they keep these children away from their culture, away from their families, and it just becomes a vicious cycle for them. And with them, basically stealing the children and making money off these children, they send them out to homes. Some of these people, yes, they're good, caring foster parents, but other ones, they see that as a money-making area for them because they receive $2,000 some odd $100 per child. So if they have 4 children, they're receiving $8,000 a month to take care of these children, and the children may receive $150 out of that for personal use, but the rest is given to the families that are fostering them.
And it's so sad to look at this system. I want to give out a few stats here because there are 11,000 children in care, and that's a conservative estimate that came out a few years ago. Out of that, about 60% of children that become adults through the CFS system end up homeless. That's a huge statistic. About 75 to 80% of those missing and murdered came through the CFS system. If we want to talk about what some of the root causes are for many of the problems we see, it doesn't end at CFS, but it's largely within the CFS system and what it does to children and how it destroys development. It's so sad to watch because I know we're a laughingstock for a lot of people outside of Manitoba, and it's a $500 million a year industry in Manitoba, and that should be shameful. That's totally shameful, and people should really be looking at those facts and doing something. You don't have to be personally affected by CFS, but you should really stand up and say something about this because we can't just allow our children to be taken and put into the government system like they are government property. It's just so wrong. Right. Now, as a former small business owner, having owned a restaurant during the time Selinger was a finance minister, what are your views on businesses getting taxed to death in this province, and what would you do differently if elected?
That's a good question. The taxes right now are so ridiculous for a small business owner, especially the payroll tax. And then you look at PST on the foods. Last year, I wanted to start a restaurant business again in Manitoba, and I looked at it and I said, "There's no way it's going to happen. I just can't put in that much money in order to make this business work properly from a startup point of view." But then I looked in Saskatchewan, just across the border in Estevan, and there was a Ukrainian restaurant for sale. And having just come back from Russia, I enjoy the food and I know how to make the food, and so I decided to do that. And I was surprised to see that they don't charge PST on their meals. Payroll tax is almost null. There's a little bit there, but it's not huge like it is here in Manitoba, among other things. The way business is set up and the business tax structure, and that was a lot better than what I seen here in Manitoba. So I went ahead and started that. I think the tax structure, the way it's set up here now in Manitoba, hobbles a new business trying to get going, whether it's a restaurant business or another small business. It's just it's like it's anti-business. Yeah. And our party, of course, would restructure the business tax that comes through. We would we would not charge PST on the food, similar to what Saskatchewan is doing. That in itself would help a lot of businesses.
Yes, of course, we have about a $21 billion debt, provincial debt in Manitoba. It's about $6 billion in Saskatchewan. It's getting pretty big in Alberta as well, with the NDP getting in. People are moving from Alberta, businesses especially from Alberta to Saskatchewan. People are moving from Manitoba to Saskatchewan, and we got to ask why. I mean, a lot of people talk about businesses and they think, oh, they're rich. Well, the people that own the businesses are the ones that give the job to the people that are in poverty. And if there's less red tape and regulation around them, then more people can be hired, more productivity, more higher wages, and I mean altogether there's a greater economy, a greater amount of people that aren't on the streets. And I mean it's so important. And right now in Manitoba, Greg Selinger doesn't seem to really care all that much. I mean, he keeps saying that he's doing a great job, but then why are people leaving this province? Why are the businesses having such a hard time starting up?
Right.
I started a small business in Manitoba. I'll tell you, it's you have to jump through hoops to get anywhere, and it's almost impossible. It really is. You have to have a really great demand to get anywhere. So it's so important. Now, while many worry about splitting the vote, the not-so-conservative party will likely get this election. What do you have to say to those concerned by this? Do you think the Manitoba Party and the Conservative Party will be able to work together on a lot of issues?
Well, let's go back to splitting the vote. In my riding, there's no worry about splitting the vote. We can split the Conservative vote here at least 10 times, and the NDP will not get in.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be lucky if they manage 200-300 votes. So it's more or less okay if they like the Conservative, fine, they can vote for them. But if they want an alternative, another Conservative alternative for them to put their vote behind, they have it now with me. What was the second part?
Well, I mean, would you be able to work, would the Manitoba Party be able to work well with the Conservative Party?
Yes. The thing is, the Manitoba Party and the people I've met in here, we don't have that my way or the highway mentality that you see, especially with the NDP. And somewhat with the Conservatives. Now, I've got a good rapport with the Conservatives in the area, and even if I don't win, I'm still going to try to work with them to help with some of the issues within this riding. And if I win, I'm still going to try to work with the Conservative Party because. To me, that's the only way you're going to get things done.
Of course, yeah.
There's always a compromise that can be done between two people when you're working for the good of the many.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's what's so interesting about coming out here to Virden and going up to Dauphin later today and several other places. It's outside of the big city where you find the most hope, personally, in my opinion, for parties like the Manitoba Party and individuals, not more than parties, individuals trying to run on their own ideas and trying to get somewhere with that. Because in the city, you get these faces shoved down your throat. You know, the media just puts out this face, that face, this face, that face, and people vote for them, not even knowing anything about the platform. And that's something that's common among across Canada, across the United States and elsewhere. People often vote for the person they see the most, right? The face that they're the most used to. And outside of places like Winnipeg, there's a lot more hope because I don't want to insult anyone, but people are more open-minded, I find, outside of the bigger cities and are more concerned about things like small business.
Even if they're Conservative supporters, they still invite me in, sit down, and speak with me. I've gone up to town councils in the area. I've gone up to large business owners, and I explained who I am and what I'm doing. And sure, fine, come in, sit down, let's talk. And I find more of what the issue is in that area, and they find more about who I am as a candidate. And now, whether I'm getting votes from that, I don't know.
Yeah.
But still, I'm open to it, and they're open to me. It's not like, oh no, I'm a Conservative and I'm not going to talk to you. You don't get that attitude here.
Yeah, and I think you certainly do have an actual chance here. I mean, it's harder to say that for many of the people within the Manitoba Party within Winnipeg, but certainly I think that you have a chance here. It's you up against the Conservative, the PC, and
and a parachute NDP.
Yeah.
The NDP just dropped somebody in here. We haven't seen him. In fact, I don't even know if he's coming to the meet and greet later on this afternoon here.
No proper campaigning, really. So what's your greatest concern if we continue on with the same big three parties?
We'll just fall into that vicious cycle of establishment parties. I like to look at this election as Manitoba being an automobile. Okay, now this automobile isn't running very well. It's got balding tires, flat tires. The engine is not running well at all. And it seems that all the people want to do is paint the car a different color and put in a new driver. The Manitoba Party, the people within it, we want to open that hood, check everything out, replace things that need to be replaced, fix things that need to be fixed with that engine, change the tires, make sure everything is operating properly, and then put the driver in to, you know, to drive away. And we don't care if that car color is red, orange, or blue.
Yeah.
You know, we just want to drive it forward. We want to make sure it's working properly. One issue at a time, and that's one thing I like about this party. We're not making huge promises to cover every election issue. Because we need to take a look at it. We got to find out what's making it broken, you know, then just to throw money at something that's broken.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. It kind of reminds me of the whole paradigm between Pepsi and Coke. You know, one's red, one's blue. They're both bad for you, and they're both probably controlled by the same people, same kind of individuals, and the same kind of ideology. Because I know many people within the Manitoba Party are standing up against this collectivist kind of mentality that you find in every party here in Canada.
Right.
Now, what's your main mission statement for the folks living in the Arthur-Virden riding?
I'm not running as a Manitoba Party candidate. I'm running as an Arthur-Virden candidate. I'm running for the people of Arthur-Virden, not for the party of Manitoba Party. I'm under the Manitoba Party platform because I believe in their platform. I believe in their care of the individual, their care of freedom, their care of lower taxes, smaller government. But I am in it for the people of Arthur-Virden, and I will, whether I'm the only one in the ledge, I will be standing up. I will be the advocate for them. I will be the agitator. If there's a problem here, they're going to hear about it in the ledge. Whether they do something about it or not, I'm going to be a pain in the butt. Put it that way.
Yeah. Well, and I like that spirit, and you know, it's something that we're not seeing too much of in politics these days. We got really nicely clean-cut people that are, you know, putting their thumb in their fist and telling you, I'm going to do good things. Good things are good. Bad things are bad. But it's about time that someone stands up for the individual. It's something that we've been way overdue for in Manitoba for a very long time, and I hope that other people take our lead in other provinces across Canada too, because I think it's very necessary for us to bring the power back to the individual and not to some giant centralized government that's going to dictate everything that we do. We should have that choice, what we do in our lives. It's up to us. So thank you very much, Frank. It was nice to meet you, and we'll be talking with many more excellent candidates from the Manitoba Party and actually elsewhere who are standing up for individualism. So stay tuned to World Alternative Media for more.